Our next conversation, our candid conversation, came from something that I read in the New York Times, and it stopped me on my tracks because it related to me in so many ways and so many women in our audience. I've been looking forward to diving into this next conversation with you all. So this story, a lot of people are talking about it. You might have even seen it on your social media feed. It has the information that a report that started out a controversial conversation. Single women own and occupy more homes than single men in the United States. Okay, you read that, you think, all right, right? Shout out to the single women in our audience who clearly own their own home. So that was according to a new study from the latest U.S. Census. And home ownership is not only the only area where women are seemingly overtaking men. When it comes to education, women make up 60% of college enrollments and over half of the workforce with university degrees. And with women more self-sufficient and financially successful than ever before, here's the controversial part. It makes it hard to date, according to the article. I know, I was 500 when I got married. So I've seen it referred to as a dating imbalance because women say they're struggling to find partners that match up with their achievements in education, finances, and life experiences. Our next guests are some of the women who say they can relate to it. Tech marketer Renee Bruner just bought her very own home at age 30. Not only did she buy the home, she's doing a gut renovation of the entire place by herself. Content strategist Tamar Nisbet also recently became a first-time home buyer after pooling her resources to purchase an apartment here in New York City, and that is not easy. And Adriana Herrera is an entrepreneur and founder of a successful tech startup. All three women say they're experiencing these challenges in their dating life, and they're here to talk with us about this conversation inspired by what I read. Tamar, Renee, Adriana, thank you so much for joining us. Listen. First of all, I've got to commend you on coming on and being open about this because I totally, my girlfriends and I, we couldn't stop talking about this because it's so real, but it's not talked about often. Renee, you had this big experience. You got the home in Austin. You bought it. When you opened the key of your home that you own for the first time, what was that feeling like?
Yeah, overwhelming. But so satisfying. It was a dream I've had forever to own my own home and to walk in and be able to just put my hands in it and start making it my own.
Right, because when I have those moments as, you know, when I was not married, I'd be like, I did that. Mm-hmm. So you're in there, I did that moment. And then when does it occur to you that doing that might be intimidating to a man?
Even before I bought my home. I think there's always been an unspoken stigma of like, if you are a single woman buying a home by yourself, then it's almost like you're giving up on finding a man and having a family. Versus if you're a single man doing the same thing, it's like you're preparing yourself to be more desirable and setting yourself up to have a family. And that's always been a strange thing for me. And so I waited for a while trying to find the right person. And then I decided I'm gonna live the life I want now.
And that's what all three of you've done, which is what the article talked about. Adriana, with all of the things you've accomplished in the tech world, you describe yourself as a whole, fulfilled, happy woman, like an amazing cake looking for the frosting. Yes. I love that quote. I love that quote. But if we're gonna keep the symbolism here, finding the frosting has been hard.
It has.
Was that surprising to you? Because one would think, you know, this would make a woman more desirable. And for perspective, in the 70s, women could not even have a bank account without men signing on. So that's how far, with Hillary Clinton just leaving this room, many other advancements. But you don't think that it's going to set you back in dating. When did you start to experience that?
When I created my first tech company. So being Mexican-American Latina, there's very few of us that start high-growth tech companies. 1% of all institutional capital goes to Latinas. I'm one of those people. Wow. And I don't date men in tech because it's been important for me to be able to say I stood on my own 2 feet and I didn't get to where I was going because some man helped me.
Right. Tamar, this is so interesting with your story. You love traveling. As Renee said, you're living your life. You said that you don't even tell men that you own a home because they're already intimidated, and that would make things more difficult.
I think it's one of those things that it's not likely to come up in our first conversation.
Because it would come up in mine. I'd be like, I own a home in Brooklyn, New York.
But if by the time we're talking about where I went to school or where I've traveled and what I want to do next, if I can tell that someone is intimidated at that point, then it doesn't make sense to then have a conversation about owning a home, because that's just one more thing to add to it. It makes more sense to just say, we're not aligned at this moment, and I'm gonna go to the next one.
You're gonna go to the next one.
Yeah.
So when you saw this article in the New York Times, did you say, I'm not alone? I mean, it's not just about women in big cities. This is across the country you're seeing this. Are we outpacing in the dating, the imbalance? How do you describe it?
I think that there's a sense that we can be outpacing some of the men that are around us, but at the same time, I do have girlfriends who are successful, ambitious, and they have found their men. So there are those people out there who are aligned with us, who do want what we want, but it's, where do we find them? We were talking backstage.
Oh.
Where do we actually go? Who are those?
Do you know the whole single ears all perked up? Literally, everybody who's single in the audience, I can tell they're like, go on, tell us more. Well, we're gonna talk about this imbalance, if it exists, and really how people are navigating through this in the dating world. Our guests are sticking by, and we are gonna be joined by a dating and relationship therapist to talk more about this article and the impact of the dating imbalance. A candid conversation on dating when you own and he doesn't. After the break. Welcome back. We're having a candid conversation about what's being called dating imbalance. Joining the conversation is therapist and author of the book Self-Love in Action, Zoe Crook. Please welcome Zoe to our show. Thank you so much for joining this conversation. So, for people who might be saying, is the dating imbalance real? Adriana, you told the story in an article in Entrepreneur Magazine, 2013. You had a boyfriend, and you shared some very successful news. Rather than being excited, you saw instantly that this was the opposite reaction from him. What happened?
So I went over to his house with a copy of Entrepreneur Magazine. I was surprised to see my big old face on page 6 in a feature, and I was like, look, can you believe that my company is in here and they're naming me Do Good Entrepreneur to Watch? And he looked at it, closed it, slammed it down on the desk, and the sound was like my heart breaking. Oh. And then he turned to me and said, well, are you gonna be able to be home and cook me dinner when I get home from work?
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you still talk to him?
Oh, no.
Okay.
That was done.
So, you know, for people who say this is just in a woman's head, it's not. It's real.
No, it's real. Yeah, I see it in my practice all the time. There's definitely an imbalance between, you know, successful women and men, but I don't think it's for the reason we think.
What is it then?
Well,
okay, first of all, what do we think it is?
Well, I think it's important to first define what modern manhood means. So,
and we've done whole shows on it.
Yeah, so anthropologists use the 3 Ps. They say that men find their manhood from being able to protect, provide, and procreate. So if a man is sitting across from a woman who's already provided for, already protected, and maybe she has kids, doesn't want kids, or at least has the means to do it by herself, that man using that narrative is gonna sit there and think, how do I fit into her life? How do I provide? What's my purpose here? So
love?
Well,
it doesn't start with a P though, I guess.
Yeah. So I think that we need to go a little deeper.
Okay.
And because, you know, we're not getting married anymore for the reasons we used to get married. Like, right. I don't need someone's cow. They don't need my dowry. You know, like we're getting married to have a spiritual experience.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of abandon this old narrative and look at where we're not able to connect with ourselves on a deeper level, because that's why we're getting into romantic relationships.
So the 3 Ps are at our core as humans, right? I guess for males.
It's cultural.
It's cultural.
Okay. Yeah.
So what then? How do you counter that instinct? I guess would be.
Yeah. Well, I think it's happening. I think it's slowly happening now. Men are going to therapy more. They're working on themselves more. And so are women. Like, women also have to abandon this narrative. Yeah,
they are. But you were saying But women have to do what?
They also have to rework the narrative. They also have to rework the 3 Ps, because there's other ways for a man to be a provider and be a protector. It doesn't necessarily need to be from the money he brings in or the house that he has. You know, there's other ways to provide for your partner and emotionally, spiritually.
So you're saying as women, we have to, because I would think the onus would be on the man to understand there are other ways to protect.
It's culturally, because I also think that women are dating with that narrative, right? It affects all of us. Because if we're dating thinking that a man has to have the 3 Ps, and then men are thinking that way, right? Like it affects all of us. So we all have to kind of rework that and welcome something new.
Yeah. When you look at strong women like we have here and in our audience, and what I define by strong, because we all are vulnerable, we all cry, so I don't try to mask myself.
Yeah.
Strength is defined in many ways, but they are people who are moving forward in their lives without a man doing the things that I guess traditionally you would do. How do you not dim your light? I'm going to be 100% honest. This is live TV. I think I was in my, 30s, and I was dating someone, and I was exhausted with, quote, failed relationships.
Yeah.
And I distinctly remember dimming myself down because
Yeah.
I didn't want, and that was completely unlike me.
Yeah.
Hello. I live to shine. And so I found myself doing it. Relationship didn't work. And I, for the first time in my dating life, had a regret.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, once you start on this path, you can't really go back. That's the thing, because then you'll resent the man you're with, you'll resent yourself. And here's the thing, there are men out there who are doing the work and who will admire all of your accomplishments.
Yeah, yeah. That's exactly what Tamir was saying. There are.
Yeah.
So in this modern world, because the ladies were talking about where you find them these days, I'm old enough to remember when it was the club. I'm team go on an app. I have friends who are single. I'm like, if I weren't married, I would be on a dating app. I am team the right one. What do you say? What do you suggest?
I'm all about dating apps. I'm all about going out and putting yourself out there. Like the other thing is, you go up to a man, ask him out, give him your number. They're scared of us. So, like, don't be nervous. Yeah.
I'm team that too. Yeah. I tell everybody, I said, the biggest thing you can do is stop pretending you don't want to be in a relationship. Yes. Don't fall for that, because a lot of times people tell you, I'm good by myself. You are good by yourself, but if you want somebody, you better go tell everybody you know. Tell me your single cousin, your friend. Is he nice? Put yourself out there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I want to keep this conversation going. I deeply admire all of you ladies, because at your age, I did not own a house. I did not own a car. So shout out to you for doing it and really showing what the modern woman, as we talk about modern men, look like. Congratulations. Tamar, Renee, Adriana, thank you, Zoe. Your book is amazing. Self-Love in Action is out now.